The night was supposed to be simple. Just another polished event filled with fake smiles, expensive suits, and conversations that meant absolutely nothing. I had attended dozens of parties like this before, but that evening something felt different, though I couldn't explain why. She stood beside me like she belonged there. Elegant. Calm. Beautiful in a quiet, almost mysterious way. Everyone assumed she was my date. But the truth was far simpler. I had hired her. She was supposed to be my escort for the evening, nothing more. A professional companion to help me survive another suffocating corporate party where appearances mattered more than honesty. I didn't want awkward questions about why I came alone again, and I didn't want pitying looks from colleagues who believed a successful man should always have someone by his side. So I made a decision that felt easier at the time. I hired someone to play the role. But I had no idea that a single whisper later that night would change everything. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need a good story today, and subscribe to the channel, The Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. The evening began at a luxury hotel downtown, the kind of place where chandeliers glitter like stars and every guest pretends they belong to a world more perfect than reality. My company hosted a yearly gala there, a celebration of profits, partnerships, and public image. I arrived early, adjusting my tie in the car mirror, mentally preparing for hours of meaningless small talk. That's when she appeared. She walked toward me across the parking lot as if she had stepped out of a quiet movie scene. Her dress was simple but elegant, deep blue with soft silver accents that caught the light. Her hair rested gently on her shoulders, and her expression carried a calm confidence that surprised me. But what struck me most was her eyes. They weren't empty like most escorts I'd seen in movies or imagined in my mind. They looked thoughtful. Almost cautious. She introduced herself softly and professionally. Her voice carried warmth without being overly friendly, like someone who had learned how to keep a safe distance from strangers. For a moment, I felt slightly embarrassed about the entire arrangement. But the night had already started. Inside the ballroom, music floated through the air while waiters carried glasses of champagne across polished marble floors. Executives laughed loudly at jokes that weren't funny, and business deals quietly formed between polite smiles. She played her role perfectly. She listened when people spoke. She smiled at the right moments. She walked beside me with effortless grace, making everyone assume we were a couple. Several colleagues even complimented me on finding such a lovely partner. Each time they did, she responded with a gentle smile, never correcting them. But as the night progressed, something unexpected happened. She stopped feeling like a hired presence. Instead, she began to feel like a real person standing beside me. Not once did she complain, check her phone, or seem bored. When conversations became dull, she listened patiently. When I grew uncomfortable around certain colleagues, she subtly guided us away. She had an instinct for reading people. And strangely, she seemed to understand me. Hours passed. The party grew louder. Music became stronger as drinks flowed freely among the guests. Eventually we stepped out onto the quiet balcony overlooking the city lights. For the first time all evening, the noise of the ballroom faded behind us. The night air was cool, and the city stretched endlessly beneath the stars. That's when she moved slightly closer and leaned toward me. Her voice was barely louder than the wind. And she whispered something that caught me completely off guard. My age isn't a problem, right? At first, the question confused me. I looked at her carefully. She looked young, but not unusually so. Maybe mid-20s. I hadn't thought much about it before. But the way she asked the question felt different. It wasn't flirtation. It was fear. Quiet, cautious fear. For a moment I didn't respond, unsure what she meant. But then she looked away toward the city lights, and I noticed something in her expression that hadn't been there earlier that evening. Worry. As if she was waiting for a reaction she had received many times before. Slowly, she explained. Not with dramatic words, but with calm honesty. She had started escort work not long ago. Life had forced her into it faster than she had expected. Her family situation was complicated, money was tight, and opportunities were limited. She was older than most clients expected. And sometimes that became a problem. Some people wanted younger women. Others judged her harshly when they found out her real age. So she always asked quietly, just to be sure. My age isn't a problem, right? The way she said it made my chest tighten slightly. Because suddenly the entire evening felt different. She wasn't just an escort standing beside me at a fancy party. She was a human being navigating a difficult world, doing what she could to survive. And she looked genuinely nervous about my answer. I surprised both of us with my response. I told her honestly that I hadn't even thought about her age. What I had noticed was something else. Her kindness. Her patience. Her ability to make an uncomfortable evening feel easier. For the first time that night, her smile changed. It wasn't the polite professional smile she had worn all evening. It was real. And something about that moment shifted the atmosphere between us that we stayed on the balcony longer than planned. The conversation slowly turned personal. She spoke about growing up in a small town where dreams often felt too big for reality. She talked about trying different jobs, struggling financially, and feeling responsible for helping her younger siblings. Nothing about her story sounded dramatic. It sounded real. And painfully familiar. Because life rarely breaks people in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes it does so quietly. Piece by piece. The more she spoke, the more I realized how strong she was. Not the kind of strength people brag about, but the quiet endurance that keeps someone moving forward even when the world becomes heavy. When we eventually returned to the party, everything felt different. I no longer saw her as someone I had hired. I saw her as someone I respected. By the end of the evening, the music had slowed and guests were beginning to leave. Laughter faded into tired conversations, and the glamorous illusion of the party slowly dissolved. Outside the hotel, we stood beside my car again. The same place where we had met hours earlier. But now the silence between us felt meaningful instead of awkward. I handed her the payment we had agreed upon. She accepted it politely. But before leaving, she said something that stayed with me for a long time. She told me that most clients never treated her like a real person. Most never asked about her life. Most never listened. But that night felt different. Then she thanked me. Not for the money. For the conversation. For the respect. And for reminding her that kindness still existed. She walked away into the quiet street lights. I stood there longer than necessary, watching her disappear into the night. And for the first time in years, I realized something important. Sometimes the people we think we're helping end up helping us more. That evening changed the way I saw the world. It reminded me that behind every role, every label, every assumption, there is a human story waiting to be heard. And sometimes all it takes is a moment of simple kindness to change someone's night. Maybe even their life. Before we finish, if this story touched your heart or reminded you of the power of compassion, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to The Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps keep these meaningful stories alive. And before you go, I have one special request. Please leave a comment and write the line. Kindness still exists. Because sometimes the world needs a reminder that empathy and understanding can still change everything. Thank you for listening. And remember, you never truly know someone's story until you choose to listen.